an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Season 3, Episode 12, Trent? In this episode, Trent is back, everybody. Trent is back, and he's more bonkers than ever. Oh, Trent, you need therapy. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Tegan for commissioning this episode. Okay, y'all. So I was warned, I think it was Erica who mentioned not to look at the title of the episode before I watched it if I could avoid it. I almost managed it. But I was about to say Facebook, Netflix, when you press play, as it's loading, it'll have like the title in giant letters. And so I definitely saw it and I knew it was coming, unfortunately. But nevertheless, still a very effective episode. We start when we have the other thing is that even if I miss the title, they always do a previously on, and it all had to do with Trent. So there was really, even if I missed that, I would have known what was coming because you can't avoid it to a point. So we are getting this jump ahead has really changed the way some of the story works. And I kind of wonder if we're going to get more of that again, because it feels sort of like a nice way to propel things without it feeling, it's not like it jumped ahead 2 years, you know? And some things need to be taken care of in a more immediate way. And that I am fine with sticking to time as it is. But I feel like maybe jumping ahead once a season might be a good plan. If there's, what are there, 5 seasons of this show? Is that right? But we start off this episode with our trio of friends. And they are, or quartet, I should say. And they are sitting at the Donuteria, I believe is what somebody called it at one point. The outdoor donut and coffee shop, which is honestly the cutest thing. I love it. And I really wish that this was like real. I want this to be a real thing. Is this a real thing? Is this based on something? I've never seen anything like this, but I also don't really think I've ever lived somewhere that rain wasn't a constant issue. So no place I know of would have like built something like this to begin with, because it's just not reliable. But regardless, the girls are sitting together, and Paula is studying really hard and talking about how she's got an ethics final coming up and it's hard. And Heather says, well, just copy your ethics off of someone else, right? And I love the way that Paula stops and looks at her, and Valencia sort of gets this expression on her face. And so like, okay. And she looks at Rebecca, who is knitting, and wants to know what's up with that. And Paula says she is trying to relax because she and Nathaniel are, and basically we find out that she is making this like for Daryl's baby. But she feels as if she has to sort of give up on life now that she is not going to have a romantic relationship. And she's really approaching things as if romantic relationships are simply out for her forever as an option. Which I feel like right there, for somebody who has a tendency to take things to extremes, behaving as if this can never be an option for you ever is in and of itself an extreme behavior and not healthy. But, you know. And then we get this song, A Buttload of Cats. Now, guys, look. there are times when having the closed captioning on isn't a great idea. Sometimes it can spoil a joke. Sometimes it can, sometimes, I don't know if y'all have run across this, closed captions are not correct, which is hilarious when that happens. And I have to say, the moment when she says, I know what I have to do now, and she stands up, and in brackets on the screen it says, buttload of cats starts playing. I almost keeled over. What a thing to see in brackets on your screen. I wasn't ready. I just wasn't. But yeah, I like the way that every time we have a song like this, where we're leaning into a stereotype and that's what's funny, we also have the lamp shading of that stereotype, like we have the song about how men suck, but then there's also this like awful moment where they all talk about how gay men are completely exempt because they're all so wonderful and they have such attitudes and they're so sassy. And I really appreciated that. And this song is all about how like, I'm going to have the loneliest life and cats are going to be my only comfort, which is weird because cats are not super friendly, although we all know that's not true. Am I right, guys? And she even asks within the song, or maybe the cats ask, where this stereotype comes from, the single cat lady. And we see like the two women who are in the cat store who really connect and wind up like walking off together. And it ends with Rebecca being like, but come on, we're all supposed to be super lonely. And honestly, I thought that was a nice way to end it, where it's like, look, I'm going to lean into this for a second because we all get the joke, but I'm also going to be like, yeah, but that's not like really real. And oh my God. And I almost forgot to mention, I really like that they had Valencia comment on the fact that Rebecca was sleeping with somebody who had a girlfriend already. It didn't really enter my mind what Valencia would think about this whole thing. Honestly, I think because I didn't expect Rebecca to tell anybody but Paula. Paula reacted pretty badly when she confessed what was going on. And I kind of thought maybe Paula was just going to continue being just her like bestie, and that she would not tell Heather and Valencia, especially considering how things had been with Valencia lately, with her trying to like help Valencia's business and then majorly fucking it up. But yeah, I like that Valencia, is just like, yeah, how about that? That doesn't work out for you. So, she says, I get some well-deserved me time. I get some hot Rebecca on Rebecca action. So this is one of those things that it's such a shame, honestly, that, oh my God, Erica says there's an explicit version of that song too. They got nothing but explicit versions. It's such a shame how invested we as a society have become in the idea of like romance being the only way to live. In a lot of ways, I blame capitalism, because so much of selling us things is this idea of like attracting the opposite sex. I say opposite because, like, let's be honest, the couples thing is pretty heteronormative most of the time, like this obsession with it, right? That's not to say that you won't feel that pressure when you are not like straight and cis and whatever, but that has always been the heavy framing of it in pop culture and whatever. So, and also, like, especially today, good luck doing literally anything to survive if you don't have somebody in it with you. Most people, like, surviving on low wage jobs are not able to afford a space of their own. So what we sort of decide is the like loophole is getting a partner who you can split it with. So it's all your own space. And yeah, you're sharing, but it's all yours really, versus having a roommate in which there are places you just cannot go into. And I feel like if it weren't for the fact that we were all like constantly broke and just trying to get by, and don't get me wrong, I know that this is not the case for Rebecca specifically. I'm just talking about in general. I think that a lot of us would maybe be a little bit more satisfied with our time to ourselves. And I wonder that about myself sometimes, because I've talked before about how I have jumped from one relationship to another over the past like decade and a half and barely got any real time by myself as a single person. And I often wonder, like, what would that have been like? And would I have benefited from that? And I probably would, but I couldn't afford to do that. You know, there was no way that I was going to be able to like move out of my mom's spare bedroom and have a place to myself to really like figure out who I am before I moved in with Owen. That was simply not an option. I couldn't afford that. And I am somebody, I am, as the like more I look into it, I believe I am an extroverted introvert. I really like having my own space. I really like being by myself for, you know, certain lengths of time. I like having people that I can connect with, but it's not really an imperative. But I say all of that as somebody who's always been in a relationship during the times where I am alone. I have very, very rarely been alone for a prolonged period while single. I had a roommate when I first split up with Ruben. I got my own place for about a year, and I started dating Brendan only a few months into having that place. And living alone, on the one hand, was amazing because you get to decorate however you want. You get to do whatever you want and nobody's going to tell you shit about it. On the other hand, I was living in an era where Wi-Fi was pretty new. It wasn't really a thing that you could find easily. Cable was the only way to like watch anything, and it was super expensive. And so I had no cell phone for the first like month I was living there. I never got cable, and I had no internet. And I think back now and I'm just like, how did I survive? What did I do for fun? And I think what I did was I read a lot, and I worked out and went out a lot. And it was pretty good. I was doing all right. And I wonder now, would it be like that again? I have no idea, because the landscape of how we live has changed utterly since that period of my life. And I was going out all the time, and I was, you know, just taking care of myself in a way that was very easy when there isn't a lot of other stuff to do. There wasn't many things to distract me. And now I could just do all sorts of things in theory while never moving from my bed almost all day. And that wouldn't have been possible then. And part of me is like, that's amazing. And another part of me is like, ooh, that feels terrible though. So anyway, I just wish that there was more support for people being alone for a time. I wish there was more support societally, just in the way that we view people who are single, and that we didn't act as if it was just like a pit stop on your way to inevitably being in a relationship. I wish that it was something that most people could afford, because then we would have fewer people in toxic relationships because they can't afford to live by themselves. So I guess I'm just going to stay with this guy or girl. And I wish that it was something that there was some sort of guidebook to how to like learn who you are while being by yourself, so that it doesn't feel like you're just sort of, you know, disappearing into your phone and or computer every second that you're alone, which I think would be a huge pitfall for me. But all that to say, the Buttload of Cats is honestly pretty good. I actually did really enjoy this song. And the cat store, the woman who just looks at the camera, the woman with her hair parted right down the middle with her glasses, who just yells cats, is so familiar. If anybody wants to tell me where these two women are from, because the woman behind the counter is vaguely familiar too. The others more so. And I gotta say, these cat puppets, good time. I really, really enjoyed these cat puppets, y'all. I wonder, did they buy these? Did they make these for the show? I would like to know all about the cat puppets, please. And I love these women having the like little accordion folders in their wallets of all of the cats that they own or used to own. Instead of pulling out their phones, because like, why not? This is a good joke. And the cat saying, we need a new publicist. The ironic part is we're not that friendly. If you're lonely, we might make it worse. And we sleep like 16 hours a day. Have you considered getting a dog? Which is working out for White Josh. I will say that. So, and I love that we're going to ruin your couch. There's a lot of evidence that organisms in cat poop make you crazy. We saw that article in The Atlantic. I didn't see that article, but I have heard that. So then we go home after this little bit about the cats, and she's sitting on her bed and she's enjoying her quiet night by herself. And she says out loud, I can finally hear myself think. And all of a sudden, we hear Trent say, I can hear you think too. And Trent crawls out from under her bed in what is a very unspooked story, scary moment. I don't know if you guys listen to Unspooked, if you're patrons, but there's a lot of stories about people who are living within someone else's space and that person isn't aware of it. And it's very upsetting. Erica says the sign that says Lonely Cat Lady Store was up for auction last year and I wanted it so bad, but I couldn't afford it. I wonder how much it sold for. Do you know, Erica? So yeah, then we get, I'm just a boy in love, and a couple of dudes who are his backup dancers for this bit. And I can't get over how good he is at putting the crazy in his eyes. Y'all, when he's singing this song, I can't be held responsible for my actions. I have no underlying issues to address. The look in his eye, I really expect him to pull a knife and take somebody out, because that motherfucker looks like a psychopath. Psychopath. Do you hear me? Makes me genuinely worried for everybody who worked with him on that set. I don't think you can pull that look into your eyes if there isn't something in there to begin with. He is desperately terrifying in this moment, and I hated it. Oh my God. The look, you guys. And then when they like make the heart in front of his face and he shoves his face through and says blam. Oh, you guys, the look. He's so scary. Ugh. I don't know where they found this guy, but what a treasure. Oh my God. So we cut from there to White Josh and Nathaniel having drinks. And they're at a kind of they're at a sort of a swanky place, right? They're not in, they're not in, I was going to say for a second that I was like, wait, is this the remodel of, First Base, Home Base? I will never remember the name of that place, but no, this is definitely a nicer place. And he's saying that the last text he ever got from her was, "Are you home alone?" And he replied, and then he never heard from her again. And ever since then, they just see each other at work and act like the whole thing never happened. Meanwhile, White Josh has his dog with him and is somehow allowed to have the dog in this restaurant, which doesn't feel like a thing that would ever be allowed unless he was like a, support animal or something. I will say that when he asks why every single one of his friends is in love with Rebecca, I really appreciated that, because that's a valid question when you are playing this role in a story like this and everybody winds up getting involved with this girl. If you were looking at it from the character's perspective, you would have to ask that. You would want to know. And he says, does she have a magic vagina? And Nathaniel says, no. She has a great one, though. And she does like it when I refer to it as the sorting hat. Nope. No. No. I don't like it. I love White Josh's reaction of just, yikes. So he then asks what's going on with Mona. And Nathaniel is like, I'm telling her that work is crazy. And it's not. And she doesn't deserve this. And she's great. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. I've just been avoiding her. He's been ghosting her. And Josh says, yeah, it's pretty crappy what you're doing. Thanks. We appreciate you, Josh. We need somebody to say this shit just like it is. And he says, I know I should move on. I just can't seem to do it. I don't know. I guess a part of me is hoping that Rebecca will come around eventually. And he says, when will I ever get the message? Which is kind of funny considering that one of the episodes was literally titled Nathaniel Gets the Message. Spoilers. He did not. So that leads into, I'm just going to talk about Nathaniel straight up. He sees her with Trent. Misunderstands, of course, as you would, the whole thing. And immediately texts Mona. And meets up with her for dinner. And she's very cold. Because they've been seeing each other for several months. And then he just literally never called or texted for like 3 days straight. And she's feeling a way about it. And I very much admire how much she calls him out. And she has a very clear standard. And she's like, no, you're not going to treat me like that. And I am absolutely not going to come back here and act like everything is fine just because you feel bad and suddenly came around and decided that you wanted to talk again. We're not going to play a game together. I am going to tell you that shit was fucked up and not okay. And I noticed, and I'm not letting you just get away with it. And I was like, good for you, Mona. And she says, so, are you going to finally stop sleeping with Rebecca Bunch? And he gets a deer in headlights look and falls for this trick like a fucking rube. And says, how did you know I was sleeping with Rebecca Bunch? And she says, I didn't, but thanks. Now I know. And it's really, honestly, I love this chick. I really appreciate. I love how she's written. I love that she's really smart. I love that she has this like tactic that she uses on him that sort of outsmarts him because he's not thinking about things clearly. I love that he asks her to move in with him because he's a lunatic who is not thinking things through clearly. And that's when she responds with, oh, okay, so are you going to stop sleeping with her? Because she's not stupid enough to think nothing was going on. When somebody ghosts you and then suddenly they turn around and act like you're the center of their universe again. Something else was the center of their universe while you weren't. Whether or not that means they were cheating, that's up for you to figure out. But whether they were cheating or not, you were replaced for a minute, and you deserve to know what replaced you. And it would be very easy, and a lot of people would fall for this. There would be a lot of folks out there, I think, who would be involved with somebody that they like, be absolutely ignored for a couple days, and then that person shows up again with an offer like this to want to move in. And that person would take that offer because they would feel so sort of desperate at the fact that this person vanished that being given a major level up in their relationship immediately after would feel like not only does it make up for the fact that you ignored me, but it secures you to my life in a way that ensures you won't be able to just ignore me again because we will be living together. And I love that's not something that's of interest to her. Like, she is not trying to just get this artificial better level on her relationship. There's a problem here, and she's going to fucking deal with that, and we're going to talk that through and figure out what the hell is going on before we do any nonsense like that. So no, sir, please put your offer away. I'm not interested. I just really love the whole way that this is played. And that whole scene, like, he says, let's see. She says, I should have spoken up sooner, but people like us were not raised to confront or be honest. We're wasps. Our parents treat our marriages like business arrangements. Treat their marriages like business arrangements. I don't want that. I want something real. And she even says something about how she could have been sleeping with other people the whole time too. And he's like, wait, were you? And she says, no, I was seeing a guy that I liked already, and I was hoping that he would come around, which is what he said almost verbatim to White Josh. So that really rings a chord for him, and he realizes that they have a lot in common about the way that they are approaching things. They each don't just go and talk to the other person, and they don't like deal well with somebody being unavailable, but also being unavailable is low-key what they're both used to because that's how their parents are. So it feels probably sort of familiar. And I don't know if this actress is in anything. I don't really recognize her, but yeah, he says, I didn't know that I could even have that with you. And he says, so where does that leave us? And I love at the beginning of their conversation, he notices that she only has one butt cheek on the chair, and he points it out. And when he asks, where does that leave us? She shifts and puts both butt cheeks on the chair and says, let's start with dinner. I love the bacon-wrapped dates here. And then bacon-wrapped dates just become a joke throughout this whole episode. I have never had a bacon-wrapped date. It doesn't sound great to me. I gotta be honest. Dates are so dense. I feel like maybe if it's half a date and a whole piece of bacon, maybe we got something going on. But also, I really like bacon to be super crispy. And if it's wrapped, it doesn't get crisped the way that it needs to be for it to be really good. You know what I mean? Anyway, what I'm saying is there are no bacon-wrapped appetizers of any kind at my wedding because I just felt like that was just too much. Although I will say, Owen's grandmother introduced me to the idea of bundles of green beans wrapped in bacon. And then this like garlic honey sauce poured over the top, and then they're popped in the toaster oven and baked in a pan. And all that fat soaks into them green beans, and that garlic honey sauce soaks into that bacon. And that is some good shit. So, I will say that. But anyway, moving on. I'm hungry. Can you tell? So he eventually, by the end of the episode, has moved his desk out of the joint office that he has with Rebecca and is sharing instead with Daryl. And it's something that they should have done a while ago. Rebecca is startled because she kind of thought, I think, she was going to be able to just keep him on the back burner until she was sort of ready for him. As much as she's trying to act like I've resigned myself to a life without a romantic relationship. I think we all know that isn't really in her heart. I think she kind of was like hoping maybe something still. And realizing that he has actually taken the reins of things a little bit is a surprise. It's such a shame because I don't really care about her and Nathaniel as a couple in that I don't know about the Nathaniel character so much being particularly interesting. But I do get frustrated at how extreme she's being with herself And I want her to allow herself to be happy, and it's rough to watch her think she can't have that and shoot herself in the foot in this way that results in not only hurting herself, but hurting Nathaniel, hurting his girlfriend. And what kills me is, like, Nathaniel had just said that he was going to leave his girlfriend for her. And I'm not sure if we're Rebecca to show up at his house tonight and tell him, I changed my mind. I do want to give this a try. Even after the scene that he had with Mona, I don't know if he would turn her down. And that just results in more hurt for everybody. I don't know. And he says to her when she asks what's going on, it was good for me to see you with Trent because it made me realize that Mona is actually really good for me. And she is. The two of them could definitely actually, like, kind of grow from each other. And I think that Rebecca struggling with what she is it's probably like, you know, I just said how Nathaniel, I'm sure, struggles with, like, the feeling of being withholding coming from somebody is so familiar to him because that's what he got with his parents, that to him that feels like affection. That's a thing, unfortunately, that happens to us when there's a toxic sort of aspect to a relationship that's close, like one with a parent or a sibling or an aunt and uncle that, like, is in our lives a lot. That toxic aspect will begin to feel so familiar that when we run across it in other relationships, that, like, speaks to something in us and makes us feel like, oh, okay, this is familiar. This is good. This is love. And we don't put together the fact that no, it's not love. The love that you had with the person who did that to you, that was real, but this part of it was bad and unhealthy. And if you come across that again, you need to learn how to cope with that. And oftentimes we don't pick that up right away. It's a long, long time before we begin to realize that, like, oh, that's actually, like, kind of a red flag. Like, for me, dating workaholics. A workaholic my father was a workaholic. And I saw being a workaholic as a signal that you were, like, somebody who was dependable and reliable and a stable person and somebody who, like, took life seriously. And I've really begun to realize, like, that's not necessarily untrue in some ways, but also that can result in you, like, not getting to see that person because you aren't necessarily their priority all the time. And I internalized not being a priority because of work and thinking that was a good thing, and was drawn to men who prioritized work over me or over practically anything. And it's just a crazy thing to step back and see those kinds of patterns, see the things that you thought were a pro and begin to realize that they might not even necessarily be a con, but they're a signal that something here deserves looking at a little bit more closely. So yeah, like, I don't know. I'm also, like, curious about what they're going to do with Nathaniel as a character after this, because it felt like his sort of waiting around for Rebecca was the main thing that sort of tied him into the story. And if he's just dating Mona, I feel like it could be a good time to bring somebody else back to the forefront. And not necessarily, like, as a romantic interest, obviously, but, like, bring another character back to the front. Like, what's going on with White Josh? Because he's got this dog, and like I said, I feel like that dog is a lead up to something regarding the baby. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. So let's back it up and talk about Trent. We get this story, you guys. Oh my God. So he tells her that he's here to claim his prize after fighting his way back to her. And she's like, the wedding was 4 months ago. Where the hell have you been? And we got this incredible story about how he was heading to that real creepy, like, West Covina Inn, or whatever it was called, that she was holed up in right after the wedding. Covina Inn and Suites, that's it. And he says, I knew you were alone. All I had to do was claim my prize, my princess. And honestly, I wonder how right he is, because I feel like that could have worked. She was at the lowest point, feeling like nobody wanted her. And if he stepped in right here and told her he knew all about her past, didn't care, that he loved her and had always loved her, this was all meant to be so that she wouldn't make a mistake and that she would marry him instead, I think, not that she would fall in love with him, but that she would take that as a consolation prize. And she absolutely would begin to feel like maybe this isn't what I want, but it wouldn't hit for a couple of years. Because when you deal with being left at the altar, that's a scar that has to stay for a long time. And that has to begin to heal before you begin to realize that who you're with now is a mistake. So it's a fucked up plan that he had, but I really think that it might have worked. Since I love this, I'm coming to rescue you, Rebecca. Just as I was about to save you from your tower, I heard the sound of a train. You know how I feel about clowns and trains. And then he gets hit by a bus. Oh my God, you guys, that was a pretty good joke, honestly. So he winds up in traction, unable to move, with a doctor that is just testing out his very bad stand-up material. Is this doctor the one that's married to Rachel Bloom in real life? Because I know that there was a doctor who was actually her husband in the episode where she winds up in the hospital. But because I think, she hasn't eaten all day or something. And, oh no, that's the urinary tract infection one. That's right. But regardless, this guy's bad jokes, man, they're really good at making those bad jokes, kids. That is A+F material. I'll just say that. So he's talking about how finally one day he had to break himself free of the cast because he couldn't take it anymore. I knew Dr. Roth would have the authorities looking for me. He was developing a one-man show and he needed my help. So I stole a hog and decided to head out to the desert to recuperate. I held up in a cave in the Mojave. And I hung with a pack of coyotes and they taught me how to howl again. And he's eating like a raw lizard that he found as he's like, that's when I knew I was ready to find my way back to you. And we find out later that the coyotes that she had in mind were literal coyotes. And the coyotes that he meant were probably smuggler coyotes. Now, we find out that he's not actually involved in any sort of smuggling thing. However, I have to assume it wasn't real actual coyotes, right? I hope. Because, look, Trent is crazy enough that he would live with some real ass coyotes, right? He would. Come on, look at him. Absolutely, he would sit amongst some real coyotes and he would howl at the moon. And all the coyotes would look at each other like, dude, are you going to tell him? I'm not going to tell him. You tell him. I'm not. No, look at that man's face. No, sir, I'm not saying shit. And they would all just be like, yeah, Trent, wow, good howl, buddy. Yeah, he's definitely crazy enough that coyotes are afraid of him, not the way around. So, yeah, he says, I wasted directions back towards Brooks Brothers at the Desert Hills Premium Outlets to find myself some clothes. I'm an outlet guy. And then I came here. And she's just like, what the fuck? That is the craziest story I have ever heard. And he's like, okay, so we're going to be boyfriend and girlfriend again. And she's like, I'm sorry. You just said words that don't make any sense together. And he tells her, all right, well, you know, I didn't want to do this way, but if I have to, that's what I'll do. I have some information about this one time where you tried to take a hit out on this woman named Mona. This motherfucker. I think I even mentioned what I don't remember what it was. Was his username like Train Guy or something? I feel like I mentioned it at the time, that it was like kind of a silly username. And now I'm pretty sure that was just him. Or else he was watching her. But I think it was just him. And he has all of this information that could blackmail her and lead her to her not only like just being embarrassed, like other shit. This is, you could go to jail. You could be disbarred. Your entire life would literally collapse around you. And she goes to work with him to show him off because she knows that nobody will see this for what it is except Paula. The expression on Paula's face. Oh my God, you guys. He also tells her, I got you a dress to wear for when we stroll the promenade or whatever it is. And it's this like turtleneck bodycon sweater dress, which she does honestly look amazing in. Can we just say that? This bitch rocks this fucking dress so hard. I need to get myself a dress like this and just sort of like ovary up and wear it, because I get so self-conscious about my belly in dresses like that. And you know what? I don't care. I need to just wear it because they're hot as hell. And even with the belly, I think I would still look super hot. I gotta just do it. And yeah, Paula immediately is like, okay, what the fuck is going on? And they find an excuse about how Rebecca needs to help her with her period. And, she, you know, it's kind of a forehand job. So can she come with me to the bathroom? And y'all, I don't think I have ever had my insides curl up the way that they did when he begins to sing period sex to Paula and really come at her. And her expression is so good, you guys. Oh my God, the look on her face when he begins doing that. It's my favorite time of the month to make love. How many times do you think that they had to do that to get a take that they weren't laughing? Y'all, I'm watching it right now and I feel like I just saw Rachel Bloom break. Almost break. Look, I'm watching it. Oh, he like takes a step forward and like shimmies and then another. Oh, it's so bad. I hate it so much. Okay. And she stops him. You don't get to sing that. I'll be right back. And this is when Nathaniel looks up and sees her kissing Trent on the cheek. And yeah, I mean, Trent is like a pretty good looking dude and it just looks like a legitimate thing. She didn't expect him to even be at the office. So sucks. So she explains in the bathroom to Paula about the fact that he is blackmailing her. And Paula she wants to know, first of all, what he's blackmailing her with, and she doesn't want to say, which is, I think, her first mistake. She keeps secrets from people that she needs to trust a little bit more. Like, look, do I think Paula would approve of her trying to take a hit out on Mona? No. Do I think that she would understand her being in a complete haze of hormones and probably like eating and drinking way late into the night and getting carried away on a fucking random thing. Yes, I do. But she doesn't tell Paula, and instead sort of frames the whole thing like it's also Paula who is being blackmailed, that he also has information on her. It would incriminate both of them. And she's trying to fight him for the good of both of them and for Paula's dreams and for her family. I didn't love this. And obviously, I'm not supposed to love it as a character thing. But I didn't love this as a writing thing. We've been down this road before with Rebecca and Paula and her lying to her. I am not entirely sure what we are doing with it here because it's not resolved. By the end of the episode, she has never confessed to Paula how she lied about the information. She just lets Paula continue to believe that this is just, her being a good friend and looking out for her. And it bums me out, not just because the obvious reasons of I want them to be friends and I want to... I want total honesty between the two of them. It bums me out because I don't think it had to be this way. I think if Rebecca had told Paula the truth about what Trent had on her, Paula would have understood the intensity of the situation and done anything that Rebecca wanted. Now, like, Paula's reticent because she's saying, like, you're asking me to do stuff to break the law in order to help you. And I am in a position where I want to get serious about my life and become a lawyer and, live a good, upstanding citizen style life. And you want me to, like, put all of that at risk. But I think if she found out that it wasn't just that Rebecca is, like, in danger of getting, of a misdemeanor. If she found out that she had been soliciting an assassin, I don't think that Paula would have had this kind of reaction. Am I wrong? So what frustrates me is it all feels unnecessary. And it does feel a little bit contrived. I really wanted Rebecca to be more in a place where she trusted her friends and was willing to be vulnerable and because, like, even if Paula judged her, do we really think Paula's going to call the cops? No. Do we really think that Paula wouldn't realize that Rebecca absolutely understood what she did wrong? Like, there's just... I don't see any outcome of her telling Paula that doesn't wind up with Paula still helping her. And I don't see any of those outcomes resulting in Paula having any fundamental change in the way that she looks at Rebecca as a friend. So I don't really know what her fears were here. It just doesn't totally work for me story-wise. It feels like we had Rebecca hold something back simply so that we could, like, spin things more out of control later and have her continue to carry this lie rather than doing something that I feel like by now truly she would have chosen to do. I feel like, I don't know. And it's not often I feel that way with this show, but this season I've been, like, a little bit more disappointed with some of the choices that they've made here and there. The other seasons have been practically perfect. And I like this. It's not that this season isn't good at all, but it's, when the first two were so excellent, it's a hard act to follow. And we're getting into some odd sort of territory here with some of the directions that the story's going in. And I'm just sort of impatient, I think, in some ways. And And Nathaniel is a major factor in that. You know, it's just, I don't buy what's going on there so much. And this thing feels like we're trying to like return to season 1 level antics. And it's mostly just, I think, to wrap up what's going on with Trent quickly. And it feels odd. I guess it's just sort of like Trent's still out there as a loose thread that, first of all, we needed to come up with this crazy story as to why he hasn't been around since this all happened. And second of all, we need a way in which she like follows him to his what do you call it? Storage facility with a partner. Because could Rebecca have followed him without Paula's help? Almost definitely. Would anybody but Paula agree to go with her? I don't see it. You know, so we had to figure out a way for her to rope Paula into this so that there could be somebody else there to witness what was going on with him. And it feels like a step back in terms of character development. I've been pretty easy on this show this season because it's built up so much goodwill with me. And that's just what happens when a show has like proven itself to be capable of pulling off some storylines you didn't expect them to even bother with. That impresses you and it makes you trust a little bit more. And sort of there are going to be things that make you want to go, wait, but, and then you let it go and trust that they'll be able to come back to it and explain or do something with that. And for the most part, that's been borne out. But I haven't been as happy with things this season. I'm just saying. So now that I got that out of the way, because they go there, find his like basically obsession hut that's filled with pictures of her, socks and underwear, like all kinds of stuff. She opens this unmarked box and it turns out to have a basically like an ink pack in it, like you would use like a dye pack for money at a bank. And it explodes and signals to him that that is where she went. So when she comes home and he's cooking for Heather, who is deeply enjoying the bacon wrap dates, he knows immediately that she was in his stuff because that was apparently some kind of love test. And this is where she just is like, dude, this is not real. None of this means anything. And I will never love you. And I kind of thought that was the wrong way to go, but evidently it wasn't because he gives her the evidence and is just like, fine, I'm just going to leave, which if I knew it was that easy, then we could have just done that, you know. It was sort of a weird, like, for somebody like Trent, her just saying, I will never love you, that doesn't feel like it should be enough for him to give up the leverage that he has and walk away. So that, you know, this whole episode is just full of little moments that I was like, I'm sorry, man. This guy was hiding under her bed and blackmailed her into a relationship knowing that she wasn't like, and her just saying, I will never love you to him. That's it. That's all it needed for him to like drop it and walk away. I don't see it. But let's go to the thing that I do like, which is Valencia and her business partner, Beth, who is also her girlfriend. So Valencia is really struggling because she wants to have a party planning business that is top tier, 5-star, bottle service, red carpet party planning. She wants what anybody who has like lived in the universe that she has lived in would probably want, right? She is a super hot yoga instructor with like probably a massive Instagram following, if we're, you know, being honest. And I just, when she wants to do party planning, based on what we have seen of her, she is assuredly an ambitious, all or nothing, I want perfection or I don't want anything kind of person. And so it's unsurprising that she has this attitude. We saw the baby shower that she threw for Daryl. I didn't even really get a chance to talk about it within the episode, but it was banana pants. It was it was just the money that must have gone into that baby shower. I just can't even imagine. So she wants to get this gig with, I think Jessica Alba is the person that she's trying to feel out. And her partner just keeps on being like, that is not going to happen for us, dude. We're too small. There are so many people out there who are asking for leads on how to get that party. Everybody's going after it. And we don't even have an office. We just have to be here at home base in order to get ahead. And Josh comes running up, and Josh is out here DJing for home base, and it's very terrible. But he comes running up and he says something to Valencia about did you get my message about my cousin's, let's see, that's exactly why I'm here, to pitch my DJ services. I've been DJing at my club and I ran into Monica F. from high school who said her little sister's having a Sweet 16 at the rec center. Okay, so they're not related. And she's going to ask you to plan the party, and I got your DJ right here. And Valencia says that she already asked me and I already said no. And Beth is like, dude, you can't be turning down jobs. What are you doing? We don't have the money for an office. And you're out here being like, we're too good for that party. What is the matter with you? And the matter is that Valencia does believe that she is too good for this party. 100% believes that. And listen, I get it. I relate to Valencia on this level. I am in my bones a snob. Anybody who listens to this show knows that. And I make some apologies for that. I'm not going to make all of them, but I'm not going to make none. So her feeling of just talking about pathetic townies and this podunk party, and they just want this little bullshit thing. And honestly, that voice in my head exists. I really, really deeply related to all of it. But also, and also low-key, I love her talking shit at Josh. Josh is a nice guy, yes. You know what? I take that back. Josh can be a nice guy occasionally. He has a good heart in general, but honestly is deeply selfish and cowardly. So, But I really, really love her cutting him down sometimes, because I feel like he tries to be so affable that it's endearing, and it's not always endearing. It can be very irritating. But they make her go so far with it a few times that you really do start to be like, all right, Valencia, rein it in a little bit, God. And I love Beth as a character who is able to stand up to Valencia in that way and be like, dude, what's wrong with you? More than once, she sort of stops her and is like, what the fuck? And she does it in a way that's not super antagonistic, we're about to have a fight. But she absolutely puts her foot down a little bit and lets Valencia know in no uncertain terms, I do not approve of the way you're behaving right now. I don't like the way you're handling any of this. And she throws this party for this girl that is not on the theme. The girl wanted a Riverdale theme, and she goes with a 20s Gatsby theme because it's very Instagrammable, which it is. She's not wrong. But it's not what this girl wanted. And then she has Josh DJing all like 20s Charleston music. And he's in this suit that he can't move in, the whole thing. And the girl that is playing the like little sister whose birthday this is, she's off doing this sad Charleston at one point in the corner. And it's honestly the funniest thing I've ever seen. The sad, like, it's just, this girl, she's very good. That's all I'm saying. I love her. I would like her to be a recurring character. She feels like Heather, if Heather actually were as like lacking in passion as she seems to be on the surface. And so Valencia finally goes over to Josh and agrees to do the royal, which is something she made him swear to not bring up. But it's a dance that they did when they were homecoming king and queen, and they get out on the stage and they just begin to do this incredibly badass, like, tutting dance that is really, like, incredible. They're really very good. And I love that it's been so long and they both remember the entire thing. It's just super fun to watch. And it gets everybody into the spirit, and they change the music and everybody floods the dance floor, and it's really fun to watch. And this basically is Valencia sort of getting over herself, because as Beth says, I understand that you want to do bigger and better things, but you can't forget where you came from. Most people come from podunk towns. Most people don't live the kind of life that you're talking about with your parties. And we need to be able to cater to everybody if we want things to be successful. You can't just walk out expecting to get celebrities for every client. That's not how this works. And I love you, Beth, and I appreciate you. And so it winds up being pretty fun. And she goes and apologizes to Josh and was like, I'm really sorry I called you a lame townie. And you are a good DJ. And I'm sorry that I was an asshole to you. And she says, I'm okay with my past. I'm from this place. And then she stops and says, well, I'm sort of okay with it. And he says, she talks about this movie poster, you can't run away from your past because that's your future. And he says, that's us. And I wonder if they will be able to, like, be friends. That would be kind of cool if he could, like, be a DJ for her business, you know? I would kind of enjoy that. Josh is a performer, man. You know, him go-go dancing at that club feels right. He can't do it forever, you know? He's going to age out of that. But, like, for now, make hay, sir. Go ahead. So that is the end of the episode. I just wanted to leave on a high note because I just really enjoyed that a lot. So I'm going to wrap up, but thank you very much to Tegan again for commissioning this. And thank you to Anna and to Erica for hanging out in the chat with me. And I will be seeing you all again on Friday with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.